joined here by Nick Carlson. For those of you who have not met Nick Carlson, Nick is a local golfer here from Hamilton High School. Grew up in Hamilton, went to the University of Michigan, and has had quite a playing career. So he's not a guy that's going to tell you a lot about what he's done and brag about himself. So I'm going to do a little bit first, and then we're just going to kind of have a conversation, and I'm going to ask him some questions that I think that maybe you might want to know about what goes on inside the mind of a really good golfer. So I'm hoping to learn a few things myself. So first, let me just go over a couple of his accomplishments. So Nick was a two-time high school state champion, four-time all-state golfer. He was runner-up, I believe, the other 2 years. Okay. His sophomore year, he set a course record 62 in a tournament that he played in at Diamond Springs? At the Hamilton Invite, that he won by 14 strokes. So he's done this by the time he was a sophomore in high school. Pretty impressive. He was then the youngest player to ever sign with U of M after your sophomore year. Okay. So then he goes on to play for the University of Michigan, starts all 44 events, and this is what I thought was impressive, that he has the 5th lowest scoring average in the school's history with a 73. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. You embarrassed yet?
I wish it was better.
Okay, and then this is something that probably maybe put him, so to speak, on the map, I would say, was the fact that he was the semifinalist in the 2016 U.S. Amateur at Oakland Hills. So lost in the semifinals to a guy named Curtis Luck, who, if I'm getting this right, if you would have made that putt and beat him, would have played in the Masters and the U.S. Open. So he was right there. So anyway, I've gotten to know Nick over the last 3-4 years pretty well, and thankful that he could come up here. I just want to ask him some questions. We'll pass the mic back and forth, and hopefully you'll learn something. So, sorry. Let me back up here real quick. Nick is now trying to make it as a touring professional. That's his goal. He wants to play golf for a living, and I'm going to let him talk more about that and his journey with that. So let's back up to tell us just a little bit about when you first started playing golf, who introduced the game to you, how excited you were, and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, so I don't have any memory of it, but we have pictures and videos and whatnot. When I was out with my dad and my parents and older brother when I was about 2 years old, whether it was putting or chipping or whatever it was at that point in time, we have pictures and stuff like that. And then I do have a visual memory of my first tournament. I was 6 years old at Cascade Country Club in Jackson, Michigan. I went out with my dad, played par 3 course. Through the Meyer Tour, they have a booth somewhere over here, so it's cool to see all of them again. But yeah, it's about 6 years old. I started playing tournament golf, and my dad and I would go to Grand Valley, we used to live in Granville. We'd go down the road to Grand Valley and play putting games, and then it's just started progressing from there. Whether it was, playing for quarters or playing for lunch, as we called it. He was buying me lunch no matter what, but I didn't know that at the time, so it was cool to get that and have that, and then it started to progress more and more and more to where when we moved out to Hamilton, we wanted to pick a location that was somewhere near a golf course and good school district, and we settled on right down the road from Diamond Springs. And then it got to the point where my mom and dad were pissed off that I was dragging them to the golf course every time they get home from work or whatever it might be, me coming home from school. I started to ride my bike to the golf course. So that's a little bit how I got started. And I kept dragging my parents and wanted it more and more and more. And it had nothing to do with them saying, hey, we should go do this. It was hey Dad, we should go do this. So it was a cool learning curve for sure.
So a lot of my students ask me, how do I get so good, or how can I get better? What is there a formula, a magic formula? We're doing this lesson, and yeah, you need to do this, and you need to do that. And you would say that there is no substitute for just flat out practice and how much you do it. And there's different phrases like practice makes perfect. I say it makes permanent, but that's true. You'd say that, and that, so that kind of leads me to my next question. Is just what do you obviously you have a God-given gift, but what else is it about yourself that you go, this is really what took me from here to here to get to a really good high school player, to get to college, now to seek a profession playing? What are some of the real key things that have been important to you to get you to where you're at?
I would say just the love of golf. For one, I loved going to the golf course and getting dropped off at Diamond Springs from 7 a.m. and not get picked up until it was dark and I couldn't see. Or I would start walking down the gate because they would close the gate on me. That's probably my biggest thing, is just having fun with it and just playing all the time. And there was times where I would just be on the range just to be on the range, and I wanted to be outside, and I was hitting these shots and creating different things. So, and I would have fun learning. And then number two, I would say, was learning how to practice. I grew up with my dad teaching me all these putting games and chipping games, and then we would go out to Grand Valley and we'd be like, okay, with wedges, it's crazy that we're going to circle back to wedges later, but we'd have to get 12 wedges in this zone before we could move on to the next set. And then it was short game, and then it was this. And so the guy that's standing over there on his phone, he won't look up, but he's the main reason why I got so good. And he didn't know it at the time, but now I look back and I learned how to practice extremely well, and I could grow from there. And so learning how to practice was big for me. That's definitely the second thing. I like to have fun, learn how to practice, and then your game kind of explodes from there when you do go out with whoever it might be.
So what about coaching then? Like, is that something, did you get a formal coach? Your dad taught you a ton of stuff. What age were you when maybe your dad relinquished the reins a little bit and said, okay, it's time to get some more serious coaching? And talk to us through that process of what that was like for you, and how important that was.
Yeah, so we joined Diamond Springs. This is the only memory I have. We joined Diamond Springs in 2004, and the head pro out there said, yeah, like, sure, I'll help Nick. And it got to the point about a year later, he said, Nick's too good. Like, you need to go see this guy, Charlie Vandenberg, at Thousand Oaks in Grand Rapids. So I started seeing Charlie since I was, I want to say 9 years old, and saw him until this past May. So I got great instruction. Going back to that last question too, is I learned how to practice from him, and he taught me different things that, even further than my dad. So I was constantly learning. I'm just a giant sponge, and I still am today. Like, I'm learning, constantly. And so yeah, having Charlie as a coach was one of my biggest stepping stones, and something that I'll cherish forever.
That's cool. So let's talk a little bit about that 62. 62 is a pretty low number, and you don't have to go shot by shot, but maybe just tell us a little bit about maybe what your lowest score before that was, and maybe how nervous you were. Talk about some of your best shots that you hit, and maybe even a couple bad ones that you might have hit, because you never get to a point where you're like, I don't think anybody here would go, yep, that was that one round that I played that was perfect. It couldn't have been any better. It probably could have been a 61, right? Okay.
So to start off, the night before, we were at the golf course, like always. Got two smiles in the crowd, but they know the story. The night before, I was at the golf course just practicing like I always do. I called up my dad and said, Dad, like, my swing sucks. Like, can you come watch? Like, I have no idea what's going on. Like, I can't hit the ball on planet Earth right now. And I was so pissed. And I used to have a little bit of an anger issue when I was younger, and that's fine. But I worked hard, and I kind of owned it, and so I was pissed, and I chucked a club. My dad left. He was so angry. He went home, and I was scared. I've never been more scared to play a golf tournament in my life that next morning. So I didn't know what was going on, couldn't figure it out. Decided, okay, I'm gonna go hit some shots, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. Hit some putts, and I'm gonna go home. Wake up the next morning, felt about the same, and I was playing with a good buddy of mine, which was nice. Kind of calmed me, or two actually, kind of calmed me down. Get off the first hole, make a par, go to the second hole, it's drivable. Hit a good drive, and then made like a 12-footer, and then it just went off to the races from there. So eagled 4, birdied 5, birdied 8, 9, 500 through 9. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I've done that in jamborees and stuff like that. And birdied 10, parred 11, which was a short par 4, birdied 12, bogeyed 13. So there's the big mishap, which is a drivable hole. Then all of a sudden I birdied 14, missed a 3-footer for eagle on 15, so I birdied that, birdied 16, and then I get on 18, and I've got like a 20, 25-footer, and I go, hey Trent, this one's for you, and the guy that I was playing with, and just bury it, and I just went, boom.
Did you know where you were?
I knew exactly where I was at, yeah, the whole time. I birdied 16, I was like, oh crap, that's 9 under, this is interesting. And have almost no recollection of the thought process that was going through my brain, because it was the first time golfers call it blackout. Whether you don't know what you're doing, you're just kind of doing it. And it was the first time I've ever had that. And so it was a little odd for me, but I remember hitting 2 shots specifically. I hit a shot in a 9 with a 9-iron from 146. Hit it to 3 feet, and was like, I have no idea what I just did, but the ball's up there, and I gotta go putt it in. Then I had a shot on 15. It's a drivable par 4. I hit a 3-wood on to about 3 feet, and then again, had no idea what I was doing. I hit the shot. I was so nervous because we had a big backup. Coach Kevin Arnold was up on the tee, hit it to 3 feet, and was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Like, this is what good golf is. And from then on, it was special. I went in the clubhouse and people thought I only played 9 holes. So, but before that, I don't even recall shooting anything better than probably 66. But that would be like going out with a buddy later on the night. Here's a 3-footer. Take that, and we're just trying to go play fast. But in terms, that's still my lowest score in a competition ever.
So you said you were nervous. You get nervous, and I think the perception for a lot of amateur golfers, well, a lot of pro golfers maybe too, is that really good players, they're like ice running through the veins, and they never get nervous. So that's not true. So let's go to the U of M. You sign as a sophomore, and you get there. You were kind of maybe a big fish in a little pond in high school, and all of a sudden you go to Michigan, and it's a little different. Little fish in a big pond. Tell us a little bit about what it was like for your career there, and how that helped you develop, and that will kind of lead us into that other big tournament.
So, first ever college golf tournament took place in Minnesota, and I qualified through 4 rounds of playing with the team in Michigan, and go play 4 rounds. Top 4 scores go play for the team, and go travel and get on an airplane, do all that fun stuff. But I was nervous during that 62 round, but that didn't even compare to the nervousness that I experienced on that first tee representing Michigan, the Block M that's underneath my coat. It was unbelievable, and little tiny fish in a huge pond. I get to the range and I see all these names and faces that I saw in tournaments throughout the years of junior tournaments that I traveled with, AJGA and whatnot, and then just kind of exploded. I realized that, okay, there are people that are a lot better than me, and I need to work a lot harder. So that first tournament was pretty eye-opening for me, and a great experience. I mean, how nervous was I? It took 5 to get out of a bunker on my last hole of the first round. So that's how nervous I was. And I'll never forget it. And those life lessons for the rest, for forever. And I get to share with you guys, like, I was nervous. Don't be nervous when you're in your club championship or whatever it might be. But yeah, it just amazing to see all the great players that were in the nation. And then from then on, each year I get to see new players and better players and bigger tournaments, and it only got better.
So tell us a little bit about, I think I want to know this, I think maybe some other people do too, about the mental game, right? So we can get into the physical game, which I want to talk a little bit about that, but the mental game I don't think gets talked about enough, and I know that what you're going to try to do here as you're going into this next stage of your career, that's a big thing that sets apart, there's a lot of good golfers out there, and the mental part is extremely important. So tell us a little bit about, like, what do you do to help with the nerves? What do you do to prepare mentally? Maybe there's something that you do specifically, whether there's books that you read, or I don't know what it might be, but tell us a little bit about how that part of your game has improved.
So nerves is always big for me, because I'm a nervous wreck, even sitting up here, like, I have nerves. But the easiest thing for me to tell whoever might be listening would be that experience matters, and I was taught from a young age to learn how to breathe. And so the two things that I would say that I picked up on early on was breathing through my stomach so that my heart rate lowered quickly. I'd done that in numerous rounds, whether it was a club championship or a big tournament of mine. So breathing through my stomach would be, I breathe in through my nose, what I would feel into my stomach at an 8 count, and blow out through my mouth at a 10 count. And for me, I was taught by Charlie, it definitely slowed down my heart rate when I would get into a nervous putt or whatever it might be. I'd back away and do a quick count, and it usually get my heart rate down. We figured 10 to 20 beats per minute, almost automatically within those 18 seconds of breathing. And then onto that is, your experience of, okay, here, I've been in this situation before. I've had this 3-footer, I've had this 2-footer before. Let's do it again. So I can remember a round for me, I won the Kent County M as a 17-year-old and was unbelievably nervous in the final round. I was playing Tom Workmeister, who's Mr. West Michigan, and an idol to me, a guy I looked up to. And now he was chasing me that entire backside. I hit a shot to 2 feet, and I was already up by a couple shots, and I looked at my caddy, and I said, what do I do here? It's 2 feet. And I was so nervous, and he said, Nick, you've done it 1,000 times on the putting green. I got over it. I told myself, you've done it 1,000 times on the putting green, and you just knock it in. And so kind of going back to a time where you've hit a shot, whether it was on the driving range, the practice green, with a buddy, anytime, and kind of replay that in your head and use that as like a past experience. And those have always helped me, and I still do it today. I mean, it's stuff that, I've learned some different coping mechanisms, I would call them, through school and through my coaches at school, but those are the two things that I always go back to for sure.
That's awesome. That's like something where I've had a lot of my students ask me, well, don't you have to have some success first before you can have something to, think back on? But that success could be as little of the thing that, like your caddy said to you, which was, look, Nick, you've made this putt on the practice green how many times before? You know how to do this. Picture that going in. You can do this again. Okay. So I just want to talk a little bit about probably the biggest highlight maybe in your career so far is the USAM, right? So tell us first of all how you got into that event. I want to hear about that. And then I actually went back. I wasn't there to see Nick compete in this, but I went back on YouTube and found it and found some highlights, and just thought it was intense. It was pretty cool. It was really fun to watch. I'm like, man, cool. That's the guy I'm interviewing. So tell us about how you got into it. Tell us again just some of the highlights about that week that you had with.
Yeah. So USAM is, for anyone that doesn't know, it's the biggest amateur tournament in the entire world. Like, it's the biggest. It's the head honcho. It's the Masters of amateur golf. It's what everyone kind of strives to get for, and they USGA hosts qualifiers all around the world, not just in the U.S. but all around the world. So there was a qualifier at Egypt Valley. I love Egypt Valley, so I signed up for that one, and instead of going to the other side of the state. And I've tried for 3, 4, 5 years prior to 2016 to even get into the event, and it's the hardest event to get into. They're the top 50 players in the world rankings, amateur rankings. They get in, but after that, there's 312 guys. After that, it's anyone. And so Joe Schmo, that owns the car dealership down the road, if he plays well enough, he can get in. So I go to Egypt Valley, birdie my first 5 out of 7 holes, and got extremely nervous, and I will be the first to admit it. Bogeyed my next 5, just like that. And but lucky enough, I shot even that round, 3 under the next. Talk about nerves. My final putt was 1 foot, and I was scared it wasn't going to go in. But anyways, got rumor that I was in, got a medal, took a couple pictures of my caddy, cheesed up out of the world, and was so pumped. Because I told myself, all right, Nick, if you get in, you quit your job. And I was working at Ravine's Golf Club with some of these guys that are down here, and I got to quit and just focus on practice. And that was my thing. And if I made it, I was quitting. I was going to work on just golf. So a month goes by of just practice and fixing a broken golf swing, and I show up to the event. How much do you want to know?
Well, now that you got in, I mean, that's good. That's cool. I want to know about now, like the tournament itself, how nervous you were. Tell us a little bit about the stroke play, the match play, and specifically maybe about that final match that I watched on TV against Curtis Luck and some of the highlights from that.
Yeah, so back to the nerves thing, it keeps coming back. But standing on that first tee box, August 13, 12, whatever it was, 2016, and I didn't know if I could make contact with the ball. I was so nervous. My buddies showed up to the tee, and that was the biggest thing that kind of calmed me down, is I told them a joke. And then the rest of the week, I was yelling at, whether it be my buddies or random fans or little kids, I could tell them jokes and talk to them and say, hey, how you doing? Hey, what's going on? The entire week to calm me down. So nerves were the highest they've ever been the entire week, and that's from Saturday morning to Saturday afternoon when I lost. So there's 7 straight days of nerves and scared, you name it, I was feeling it. But yeah, so like I said earlier, 312 start the week. They cut down the low 64 in ties. If there's ties, to figure out the exact 64, because it goes into March Madness bracket style. And so 64 go on, and it's dog eat dog until there's 2 guys left, and when there's 2 guys left, only one can win. So yeah, I started my match play with Zach Oshu? I can't remember his name. Zach's something, wherever. Doesn't matter. Round of 64 went really well. Won on our 18th hole. Then wake up the next day, got to play 36. So round of 32 and 16 were back to back. I'm playing number 7 ranked kid in the world, second day, from England, Scott Gregory, great kid. Still follow him, talk to him the other day. So we duke it out, and we go 19 holes. I birdied the 19th hole, number 1 there at Oakland Hill South. Went nuts because I thought every time I won or made a big putt, it felt like the coolest thing in the world. It felt like I had just accomplished something. I had done something awesome. I was representing Michigan, the Block M, you name it. So finish that round, go in, shower, go out again, play KK Glimbasset, who's 44th in the world. Meanwhile, got to throw it out there, I was 1987th. I wasn't supposed to be there. So beat KK, similar thing as the first round, went 19 holes, made a 3-footer on our first playoff hole, number 1 at Oakland South, went bananas, and Fox loved it. Fox has USGA coverage, so they picked up the USAM, and Joe Buck and all the guys were loving it. So they thought it was the coolest thing. They presented this big Nick Carlson, U of M golfer, is going nuts at Oakland Hills. Come on and watch. So I thought that was the coolest thing in the world, that Paul Azinger and Scott McCarron and Joe Buck wanted to watch me play golf. And so I played Dylan Meyer, who was the Western Am champ, number 36 in the world, Illinois. So I've seen him enough, and we grew up playing junior tournaments with each other, so that was pretty cool. Take him and beat him 3-1, which is, I won the 17th hole after being 2 up already. So beat him to get into the semifinals, and that's where I know everything started. And there was media attention right after I played Dylan. They threw me on a golf cart, and we went straight to the Fox tent, and I had to sit next to Holly Saunders and give an interview to the entire world. And that was pretty nuts. And I didn't realize at the time how, yeah, a little bit more challenging. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was pretty nerve-wracking. But I was part of that week, going back to the whole thing, I didn't know what was going on. If you come up and tell me, yeah, we met on the 6th green at Oakland Hills during the practice round, I'm not going to know. I'm not going to know if I met you at that week at all. And I apologize to the people that I met, but I just had no idea what was going on, to the point where I couldn't feel my golf swing. I would just kind of hit, and it was good that week, and we'd go find it. So it was pretty cool for that sense. And then lastly, yeah, I played Curtis Luck in the semifinals on that Saturday morning, and there was about 5,000 people watching, and that's something I'll never forget. That's a lot of people, but it was an amazing experience. Jitters up the wazoo on that first tee box. I can look back at the videos that you were talking about earlier, and just kind of gives me chills still. I mean, to this day, and I think it always will, regardless if golf works out for me or not. It's something, memories that I'll have for life. But amazing experience, something I'll never forget, and yeah, it was just awesome.
That's really cool. So if you would have made so as the semifinals lost into Curtis Luck, if you would have made that putt, you beat him, you would have played in the Masters and the US Open, right? Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so let's segue here a little bit into the next step for you. And then I want to talk about what you're doing now to try to prepare to get to the next level, and I want to talk a little bit about what you're trying to do with your golf swing. I want to get a little bit into that, what you do. You've got kind of a crazy wedge system, and then I think we're going to try to hit a few balls here too, so you can see his swing and ask you a few questions about that. So start with, what is it that you feel like you need to do to bring it yet to another level? Maybe touch specifically on your golf swing a little bit, what you're doing there, what you do physically. I mean, golf's become a pretty physical game. You see all the guys that are on tour now, they all work out. You know, it's a different athlete that's playing professional golf. So tell us about how you prepare for that.
Yeah, so I think the easiest way to show how I prepare would just run you through like a normal summer day. So honestly, I wake up at anywhere between 7 and 8 a.m. and we're going right to the golf course. I'll get a lift in or run. I do cardio 3 days a week, get a lift the other 3 days, and I have a day off. So I either run or I lift right away when I get there to the golf course. Shower, go right to the putting green, and I'm on the putting green for about 2 hours, whether it's working on stuff from the week prior that I noticed during my play when I would go out with buddies, or try to go out by myself and try to post a score. So I'd work on, you know, a speed drill or 3-footers or 5-footers, and I'd be there for 2 hours, like I said, and then I'd move over and I'd start chipping for 2 hours. And that runs me into about 1 o'clock, so lunchtime, grab a bite to eat, and head over to the range until about 5, 6 o'clock. And usually I kind of segued it into percentages. So 50% of my practice on the range will be technical skills. that first 50-ish% of my day is just drills, technique. What do I need to work on? And that could even be wedges. Like that could be whatever. It could be hitting a driver 150 yards and working on a field. But that's my time block, is that 50%. Then I'll go into a little bit of a competition, say 25%. Will be a little bit of competition. How close can I, curve it from this pin to this pin without overdoing it? Or how can I divide up this green into 4 segments, hit each segment, and then change clubs and do it again on a different part? And then the last 25% is a little bit of driver work, wood work, and curves. So I'll spend 30 minutes on just my driver, making sure it feels good, looks good, ball's flying how I want it, and 3 wood the same, 3 iron the same. Maybe I'll even play a game where I'm trying to pick a fairway. Mac Legends, where I practice this summer, has a bridge in the background, so I'll try to hit it between the bridge, and when I'm looking out, it's probably a 10-yard wide fairway. Just that's how it fits my eye, and I'll try to hit it in 14 balls in there. And then I'll switch up and I'll go to curves, and I'll try to hit some. I play a fade predominantly now this year, so I'll try to hit some draws, and I'll try to hit some cuts, and then where's the wind at today? So I'm gonna hit some slices, and I'm gonna hit some giant hooks, stuff that I used to do for fun way back in the day when I was a kid. And I just want to, and that keeps it light and that keeps it fun. And that's about time my buddies get out of work and I go play 9 holes. And whether it's with these guys here or guys at Mac, we're going out and we're going to have fun. And they know it. I'm trying to hit some good shots, and I'm also horsing around. So back to the fun aspect. But that's about a day. And that brings me about 9 o'clock at night, drive 30 minutes home, and we'll do it again.
So it's a full-time job. Full-time job. So some of my students too, they'll say, how should I practice? And I want to ask you, because you have a coach, Patrick, and you guys work on some technical things, but then you're talking about hitting shots too. So it's not all technical. It's not all about, well, my swing plane's perfect here, my club face is perfect here. There's an element of that. But you would say that it's really important too to say, well, you still have to hit shots. I still have to put the ball, over here in the rough, in the fairway, hit a draw, hit a fade, hit it low, hit it high. That's still just as important to you as the technique part.
Yeah, absolutely. I have multiple games that I play either on the range or on the course. I just came up with a new game last year called 27. So if you go around 27 holes, you got to get up and down the entire time with wedges from different distances and different lies and stuff like that. So yeah, there's constantly new things that I'm trying to improve on and get better on. And a lot comes from Patrick teaching me. He played professionally for 10 years. And there's stuff that I don't know that's in his brain, and we're constantly working on different things. But yeah, like I said earlier, some of it's technical and some of it's let's play games, let's have fun, let's compete against yourself, and the next time you go do it, the next week, let's try to better that score.
So you hit the ball pretty far. Well, I've seen it. He's modest. So Nick, I'll toot his horn a little bit for him. He hits it. I watched him hit one the other day after his 3rd swing on track, 330 yards. So that's pretty legit. How tall are you? 5'6" on a good day. So where does all your power come from? Where do you get the speed from? What that is always what we're getting asked, how do I hit the ball further? What do you do?
So there's 2 things. I work out a lot. That's one of the things. That's only about 50%. But when I was growing up, I competed against a guy that hit it so far, was very tall for his age, Brandon Barrows from the other side of the state. And so I was constantly seeing this kid just unleash on a ball, and I was trying to compete with it. We'd play together. We were go back and forth in the state. So I'm constantly playing with him, seeing what he's doing. I'm trying to hit it that far. And so when I was younger, I would swing out of my shoes. But you had it in the fairway. You had to hit it in the fairway to learn how to score. So I had to learn how to do both. And then from there, I kind of was a longer junior player. I don't know how, other than trying to keep up with someone. That's really, and hitting it as hard as I can, because it's cool to hit it far as a kid, especially as a kid. If there's kids at home that want to hit it far, swing hard. Learn how to hit it straight, but swing hard. that's definitely my advice to them. But then you get in the gym portion, and Michigan, I'd work out in high school and middle school a little bit, and always ran. So I've got strong legs, tree trunks as I call them. And then I get to Michigan, and we have John Sanderson, who does the basketball training, strength and conditioning. So from John's expertise and all his studying that he's ever done for basketball, it translated right into golf. And so I learned under one of the greats for 4 straight years, and kind of took that, and I've been doing it ever since. So like when I say I lift, tonight when I get done from here, I'm gonna go watch the Michigan State game. I'm gonna go lift late night. I'm gonna do squats. I'm gonna do bench press. I'm gonna do curls. I'm gonna do some back stuff. I'm not gonna, sorry, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm gonna throw 300, 400 pounds on a bar, and I'm gonna move it around, because that's a stress reliever for me. And whatever happens on the golf course happens, but if I can go to the weight room and relieve some of that, even better, because that makes me a happier person. And same with running. So 3 days a week I'm running, but yeah, I'm constantly trying to improve my body. I wear this thing on my wrist called a Whoop, and it tells me my strain on my body, whether through cardiovascular load, and tells me how I sleep at night. And so like last night, for instance, I slept really well, so I can treat myself to a hard workout today. Maybe no one's thinking the same thing when they sleep well, but that's my thought process. And I want to go lift hard, and I want to go expend my body almost to the max. And I play a lot of basketball, and I'm trying to push my body to its highest potential, because I know that when I'm on a golf course, that's only 4 hours, but all that is going to equate to me being more calm during the round, me being able to walk off the 18th hole and say, I'm going to go practice for 3 more hours because I can. And so working out, staying in shape, and trying to swing really hard as young all equates to a lot of swing speed. And adrenaline plays a factor, because when I'm in TrackMan with you, it's 116, and when I'm on the golf course, it's 121. So.
No, that's good. I think that that's just one of the biggest questions I get asked all the time is how can I get more distance? So to break that fallacy out there that working out is a bad thing, that's something that it's a thing of the past. Okay. You guys want to see him swing a couple? Okay. Let's get to the real business here. So Nick, tell us, maybe grab just looking at this net here, maybe like a 7-iron. Yeah, maybe a 7-iron. And let's just walk through maybe one of the biggest things that you've been working on over the last, 5-6 months in your golf swing. Because I know you've said you've kind of had a breakthrough. Okay.
So in late May, early June, I switched from Charlie Vandenberg out of Thousand Oaks. I switched to him, to my former assistant coach at Michigan, Patrick Wilkes-Greer, who teaches at Miles Golf now in Ypsilanti. That switch came because my body didn't like the way Charlie did things. You'll see in a second when I kind of explain the old way I used to swing, and it made sense. And then I had some injuries in college for various different reasons, because I'm a kid, and it happens. But Patrick kind of taught me a different way to swing that my body liked and my brain really, really liked, which I thought was a big part, because so I switched from hitting draws to hitting cuts. And when I would watch PGA Tour events on TV, I would look at a fairway and be like, I can't hit that shot. I need to hit a cut. And so my cut was always my go-to, and now it's my ultimate go-to. So yeah, the 2 things that I'm working on is I'm always working on the same 2 things with Patrick. Every time I'll see him on Monday, and we'll work on the same thing. So those of you that don't know, P2, there's positions all through the golf swing, 1 through 10. So 1 is addressed, 2, 3, 4, 7 is hitting. So I'm always working on 2, which is going back parallel to the ground, and 6 coming down parallel to the club shaft parallel to the ground, and making sure that the club isn't too far outside and not too far inside, and just right, going back. And then on the way down, making sure that it's shallow, which is this look, relative to getting in this way to hit cuts, which is at the beginning of the summer, which is what I did. So
So when you're saying two inside, two outside, you're talking about on the takeaway. So show us two inside on the takeaway, maybe. Okay. So
which created this. Or if I would go two outside, it would create this. Both of which are not good for what I'm trying to do on the way down.
So what position are you trying to get to halfway back?
So every time I hit a ball, I kind of rehearse. And you'll see some guys on tour. I rehearse this move, and then I'll try to rehearse this move, which is body rotation, chest going toward the target, club shallow, a little bit closed, and so then from P6 here, it's just pure rotation to hit the ball.
Easy enough, right? Okay. Well, let's see it in action here.
My two two drills I'm working on right now to get rotation and to get a little bit different feels. I use this towel, and if for any of you that might want to go try this, don't do it indoors because you'll break something, and be careful of those around you. But I try to take. I'm keeping my elbows in, and the only way I'm going to be able to hit the golf ball is if I create correct rotation. So I'll hit one right now, and if I have bad rotation, I'll miss it. I'll miss the ball or hit it incorrectly. And if I have good rotation, I'll cure it.
I'm getting out of the way. Was that good? It looked good. Yeah. Okay, so the feeling again that you're trying to get there is that with the towel in your arms, you feel like your arms stay connected to your body. Okay, what's this ball? Oh, that's going to be drilled too. Oh, sorry. Okay, so the towel's between the arms, and you're feeling like if I have to have more body rotation as opposed to if my body were to stall and my arms go out.
So here's old Nick, Charlie Vandenberg Nick, amazing, but it just didn't work for my body. I had a shoulder issue and a little bit of back issue, so it kind of looked like something like that.
So arms are away from the body.
So like there's a gap here, and if I do that right with a towel, there's no way it's going to stay. It might stay in my right arm. There's no way it's possibly staying in my left arm.
Got it. Okay, so take us into this ball then. What do you got going on with that?
So I saw Patrick last week, Saturday? Yeah, so a week ago. And we wanted to create a new way to get shallow. And I'm always talking with him and always sending him videos of whether it be Rory or Tiger or whoever it might be, Jason Day, and we're always working on to get better. So I came up with the drill that I always did with Charlie, but now we've added rotation with the towel and width with the ball. And maybe you can talk about a little bit of width. Why not?
Yeah, I will. Okay, so he's talking shallow, and so for those of you who don't know what he means, show us shallow on the way down, Nick, versus... Okay, so shallow is when this club right here, this club is what we'll call laying down. So this would be shallow, this would be too steep right here. So when you look at all really, really good golfers, there to some variation, this club is never coming in like this. So when he's saying I'm trying to get more shallow, that's what he means. Okay. Now width. So this is to try to create width. What does width mean? Well, width. Can you turn around the other way, Nick, once so that you can see width? Width would be. I'm going to point to you here. Width would be how high up his hands are here, and the width is how far his hands are out away from him. So show us something that would be not wide, kind of collapsed. Look right there. So obviously the ball falls out when you do that. So do you have to be pretty flexible to do that? So for people who aren't maybe as flexible, can you still get width?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can do anything in a golf swing as long as you're doing it properly. I could be stiff as a board, but I could still get my hands correctly and my arms as far enough as my body will allow it. Me and Rory are totally different in the terms of he has a little bit more flexibility with his left shoulder, but we still get into a similar position to what our bodies can allow.
Cool. So can you actually hit balls with that too, or when you with this ball? Show us one with that one. And that, yeah, I know. I'm putting you on the spot. This is not easy. Yep. Awesome. So to me, that looks like a lot of body rotation. And when there's body rotation involved in the swing, it takes the hands out of that a little bit.
So when I have body rotation, my hands aren't manipulating the club face, and I can just hold it in a position from about P5, which is hands in the shoulders coming on the way down. I can hold the same club head angle all the way through post impact. And for me, the less that the club head moves, the better the shot. The more consistent the shot, everything that comes with it.
Awesome. Okay, I want to see if we got how we're doing on time here a minute. Okay, we got just a couple minutes. You like Bryson DeChambeau because he's kind of a nutcase, a scientist. Okay, you have a little something you do with your wedges, a wedge system that is pretty complex, and I thought this was pretty interesting. And not all pro golfers think this way necessarily, but this is something that you go through that helps your wedge game really just dial in distances, because that is an important, huge part of the game.
Yeah, so first, we have TrackMan at Michigan, which is like, it tracks the golf ball and how far it goes. So one day, one of the coaches was like, oh, let's try this wedge system with the clock, and put your hands at 9 o'clock and then swing to 3. And in my brain, that didn't work. I didn't like 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. I liked, okay, I want my left arm to go to my bicep, which would be here, and then I want my right arm to go to my bicep, and that's how I feel a 62-yard shot. And so I have this massive calibration of every single wedge in my bag goes through. I think there's 16 different variations of my body that I feel connected points on instead of a clock, instead of feeling 9:30 to 1:30 or whatever it might be. And then that sheet is constantly growing. So I have all the yardages, all the mile per hour numbers, all the ball speed numbers, so that every day, or when I do have the ability to go work on a TrackMan, I can compare it to the original data, which is very, very consistent. Was done over almost a year. So I have all my data is like really good. And then recently I started doing another sheet where this is me being a nutcase, like Bryson. I have the wind down on the bottom right here of what the wind was doing that day. This is all TrackMan height variation. So on my 50-yard shot, my low number is anything under 28 feet, and my highest is anything over 35 feet. And then I have all the, that's constantly going 50 yards. And I have 62, 74, 82, 91. You can kind of get it. And then we have all my wedges, pitching wedges, yet to be added because we do that on Monday. But no, I'm constantly trying to get a different wedge feel. And I would say over the last 3 years of doing this, my wedge game went from a C to an A. And it's still going to get better, I hope. I think it's going to get better, and I'm constantly going to work on it. And this is all stuff that I learned from Charlie in Grand Rapids, because Zach Johnson and Mike Bender work on the same system. And it's something you guys can go do. There's wedge blocks at Thousand Oaks, and you can kind of create your own system. Or if you wanted to see Charlie, he's an amazing wedge instructor too. So even this guy too.
Wow. I think I need some work on my wedges now. So that's about all the time we have. Thank you so much, Nick, for coming up and sharing just some of the thoughts that go through a really good golfer's brain. I learned a few things, and hopefully you guys did too. And thanks again for coming by. I think, yes. So where do you stand? Where does he stand on the tour? Where's he at? Okay.
So I leave on Monday to go down to Florida, play some mini tour events and Canadian Q School. So hopefully it's a PGA Tour sanctioned tour. Hopefully be in Canada all summer. The easiest way to follow me is nickcarlsongolf.com. Just made a website, it's a blog. I post on it about bi-weekly. And then when I'm playing events, it'll be more and more, and scoring information and where I'm at and what I'm doing and all the good stuff. So yeah, and thanks for coming out today, and thanks for having me.
Thank you.